Love that
Hello.
transition. Nailed that.
What's up,
What is
everybody?
up?
Welcome to the secret episode 1 of Funny Nut
I
Cheerios.
thought we were calling it 1.5.
It's 2. It's 2, actually.
Okay, this
It's
is
2.
episode 2.
1 is lost to the ether
It's
forever.
out there. It's out there floating. So there's like an orbital cloud around the Earth of like radio signals and stuff. I don't know how that works digitally, actually. So I'm talking up my ass.
Do you think the Wayback Machine has a live stream?
You might have to explain what that is.
It's Internet Archives, so you can pull up stuff that's been deleted.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that would work for what I'm talking about, but okay.
I don't know. Anyways,
tonight's topic, I just put on our caption on our Twitch, war on things, because I imagine it's going to touch on multiple things, but the main subject would be war on drugs, right?
yeah, and it's probably not good to put drugs in your title as far as posting on Twitch.
That wasn't my train of thought in changing that, but there's definitely a war on things, and I think that's kind of a vague, broad place to start, yeah?
Oh, yeah, and if I sound weird, I'm in a hotel room
Clayton is
in Colorado.
remote. Wasabi is remote.
So if I get cut off also, it's because I'm literally using my phone internet.
He's reached his bandwidth on his internet.
Hopefully you're on the Wi-Fi.
My computer is, but my phone's not, but hotel Wi-Fi isn't very trustworthy. Also, I have to go to the Denver airport. I actually flew in on it.
Nice.
I've been here before. I didn't notice anything, but I'm gonna look pretty hard on the way back for like the creepy stuff. There's always I've heard the conspiracies about like weird murals and stuff, and then there's that red-eyed horse that like killed the guy who made it.
Yep.
What are you guys talking about?
I'll see if I can find that. The Denver airport is supposed to be nutty.
Like haunted?
Yeah.
No, like there's weird Illuminati
weird art.
murals and stuff.
Yeah. There's weird art that shows kids being like worshiping different shit. It's pretty intense. You just got to look it up, man. It's all on the internet.
A whole episode on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a 10-foot statue of a horse with red eyes that looks like the what are the things in the Bible? The 4 horsemen or something.
It's
Of the apocalypse. But when they were making it, the guy who sculpted it was trying to put the head on, and it fell off and killed him.
Yeah.
But
they cut like a major artery.
Jahibs. Illuminati headquarters. Yeah, thank you for that contribution.
There's supposed to be all kinds of tunnels and stuff. I'm going to go looking for tunnels.
It's where all the elites go and they fly in. They use all those tunnels so they don't have to use wherever the mass is.
Dude, that's an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There's like some fan theory that the Phillies baseball team has some secret underground network of tunnels because their fans are so bad, like they have to exit the games in secrecy, or their fans will attack them or something. So, I don't know. It was the plot of one of those episodes. It was pretty funny.
Anyway, so the war on drugs.
War on drugs. Yes.
Not the Denver airport.
Not the Denver airport.
Obviously, we study this stuff every week pre-show, and I kind of took the political route in like a vague timeline of, maybe not vague, but like a rough timeline of when it started, kind of the pretense, and some major events and conspiracies therein. What was kind of y'all's tone on what you found?
I think the first thing I noticed was the war on drugs. I don't know. It was associated with Reagan.
The band?
I first thought, the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Reagan.
And that's all you find.
I thought it was associated with Reagan, but it actually goes back a lot further than that. Nixon.
Oh yeah.
And even further than that. So it's pretty crazy history all the way back to, I don't know. You'll know
Prohibition.
Better than, yeah, Prohibition. Herschel.
Oh, you can go before that too. Like, I mean, you could kind of almost even get into the opium wars in the 1800s between the first opium wars was just Great Britain and China. Mm-hmm. Second one was France and Great Britain and China. Those were kind of wars fought over trade, but it was heavily involved in opium trade. That's why Hong Kong was annexed by Great Britain until like 3 years ago. But I guess Drake, what'd you kind of focus on? What was your modus operandi?
It was like a domino effect through the years with the government. Just started with the prohibition, and then like with minorities moving into the country, they're bringing all this different type of booze, and then the government's like, we fucking hate that because they're making all this money off exporting and importing all this booze, blah blah blah, and so we're gonna put these laws down. Excuse me. They put these laws down. You know, you can't fucking do anything with alcohol. It's bad for you. And then go through all that bullshit. And then the next domino is it happens again with marijuana with Reefer Madness. And y'all know that story. And then
I've heard it on Joe Rogan like 30 times. It's Reefer Madness plus the guy who owned the paper.
That's what their name I was trying to remember. Do you remember that name? I don't remember it.
No, I actually went
Watts or something like that.
I saw it immediately when I first started studying, and I was like, I know that story. I don't have to study that, and now I can't remember his name at all.
In the background.
And so Reefer Madness is kind of predated like 30 years because in 1906, people fled Mexico. I guess there was some strife within their country, and I didn't really get into why, but there were a lot of Mexican immigrants. And then in 1936, Reefer Madness comes out, and everyone had been calling marijuana cannabis, but it wasn't really prevalent in America. Then Reefer Madness comes out, and they definitely stigmatize marijuana and make it. I think in the movie Reefer Madness, there's like an attempted sexual assault, like a murder or something, or an abduction. And just like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't watched anything like that.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, what was his name?
It's gonna be in here somewhere.
All right, let us know when you find it.
Yeah.
I can't read.
What were you saying? What were you saying, Drake?
Oh yeah. So, well, with Reefer Madness, like you said, if it's cannabis through white people, and then when it is coming from Mexico, they're like, look at that Mexican weed, that's marijuana. And they try to make it, they made it a Schedule 1 drug, which is.
Yeah, that was in 1937. No. They didn't make it Schedule 1 until 1970, but in 37, I think Jeremy was actually just on an article talking about it. They passed the Marijuana Tax Act. Harry Anslinger. I wrote his name down, but I didn't put any context there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. That's literally what I had pulled up.
Yeah. Hell yeah. He had a hand in quite a bit of it, I think.
Oh yeah, he's like the cause of most of it.
Hemp was a $1 billion crop in 1938.
Yeah, and they murdered it.
I'm not gonna go into
with that. Yeah, because that tax act affected the sale of hemp products and marijuana.
Yeah.
And at the time, hemp products were way more prevalent than anyone smoking anything.
Dude, there's no logical sense of it. You don't want to get too much into it, but there's like, I don't know. There wasn't any justification for what they did other than purely economical and capitalistic purposes.
Yeah, it's always to capitalize off of it, to get rich and protect their wallets.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it gets to fucking Nixon, and that's when.
Hang on, there's another.
Dude, yeah, well, you got like 20 years.
I'm sorry, I'm time hopping.
No, you're good. Someone studied Nixon, so did I. We're gonna get into some heated Nixon talks, I think. But so I don't have anything from the 40s. Do you, Jeremy? It was kind of just the downfall of.
No, I mean all that stuff with
marijuana in general.
The cotton versus hemp industries that was rolling into 1937, rolling into 1940s, and then imagine that's rolling into the JFK stuff you're gonna want to get into.
No, okay. So actually, in '52, they passed the Boggs Act, which is the first mandatory minimum for marijuana.
What year was that?
Which gave 52.
That's 1952. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And so that gives you like a minimum 2 to 3 years for, I think it was possession.
Yeah.
If it's not possession, it's selling, but I'm pretty sure it was possession.
No, dude, I'm trying to read through it, but I'm pretty confident it's possession.
All right.
Just talking about it.
And so Nixon himself doesn't necessarily do anything until 70. He was elected in 68.
He's
but he
part
was
of the
VP.
administration, though. I think that's hard. It wasn't a hard concept, but that was something that was enlightening to me doing a lot of this research. Is there's people that pass through administrations after administrations in between parties.
Yeah.
So there's people that are on
he was-
JFK's administration that just follow into Nixon's administration, all the way into Reagan,
Sure.
all the way into Bush, dude. It's insane. A trail of these guys that kind of follow these administrations.
Okay, and those are the people that you know about. So now, if, later in this discussion, we're going to get really into like the CIA and deep into that stuff.
I was
Those
just about to say
people-
that.
Those people are also the same people. There are people in the back end of what Nixon was doing who are also in the meddlings of Reagan 20 years later.
Reagan,
But Nixon was VP before he was president. So he kind of, when I looked it up, 52 was Truman. So Truman actually passed the Boggs Act of mandatory minimums,
Oh wow.
which I thought was
Okay.
interesting. I think that was like his last year or something. And then it was Eisenhower, and Nixon is Eisenhower's VP.
dude, Truman
then it's-
to Eisenhower.
Then it's Nixon.
Some pretty crazy shit.
Yeah, Truman was truly a bad man.
Hey,
Put bad. Truman.
I don't know. I'm not gonna argue against it. It's just an interesting transition in America at that time.
Yeah. I mean, Nixon was a bad guy too, but what did you?
Not arguing against that either.
Drake interrupted. Or I was talking over him.
no. I just was waiting to chime in.
Mhm.
Whenever we get into the CIA, I put a video in the chat, and there's like 20 seconds maybe of what what I need to show y'all, but it's really relevant to the
Which
CIA.
one is it?
It's
Okay.
It's the one I sent. No, I think it's the only one I think in the chat.
Is it the war on
Okay.
drugs?
Give me like 5 to 10 minutes to. Is this it?
Mm-hmm.
This is an ad.
This is an ad. You guys won't be able to hear it through the stream, but the stream will be able to hear it.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay, Drake, you already know it. Do you know what second you want to talk
It's like the very beginning.
about? Okay.
Oh, I watched this.
So like you hear him say this.
We have this video too. We can show.
That guy's name is Michael Rupert. He was.
Yeah, so he says that and everybody gets pissed. And then pause it. And then it's like at 6. What did I say in the message? 6
Okay, let
minutes
me
and 30
tell.
seconds. All right, go
Let me
ahead.
kind of explain the meeting that he was at.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we're going to jump ahead to the 80s for a little bit, and then we'll come back to the 70s with Nixon. But that was in 96, I think.
What was?
94, 96, where that guy said the CIA's been running drugs.
Oh,
for
yeah.
years.
Yeah, sorry.
Um,
93, 94, somewhere around there.
There's a guy named Gary Webb. I didn't write the newspaper he worked down. It was a very small, kind of non-important
Dude, that name
newspaper,
sounds
but
super familiar.
he wrote a series of articles called Dark Alliance. I think he eventually turned it into a book. And it kind of detailed the CIA's involvement. And it's off the back of the Freeway Ricky Roth case.
Yeah.
And kind of delved into the CIA. It's the Iran-Contra affair, but it's the Contra section of it. He got a little deeper than anyone else was able to get into the CIA's involvement in Nicaragua and the running of drugs from Nicaragua through the CIA to LA specifically, because crack hit LA and then it spread to the country like 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah,
And-
to the East Coast.
Freeway Ross was how that happened. So anyway, let's circle back. We'll get in depth in that later. I cut off the video, so let's keep going on it.
No, but the video is perfect for what you just said because if you skip to 6 minutes and like 30 seconds, and play
was
it.
the first major piece
I
of
wish I could
investigative
hear it.
journalism to be published simultaneously
Dark
in
Alliance.
print and
Yeah, Dark
online.
Alliance is what
The
Clayton
story-
was just talking about. So like right here,
Yeah.
and then the CIA guy talks.
That was a perfect pause.
Went
Oh,
viral,
okay. So
getting picked
I kind of
Oh, is
didn't
it
get to my
paused?
point.
Oh, okay.
That first guy, Michael Rupert, when he's talking and he says, CIA's been dealing crack in this country for years. That is at a meeting with
L.A.
Alan Dulles, I believe, who's also kind of involved in the JFK assassination. I think he was on the Warren Commission.
Yeah.
Where, okay, so that guy, Gary Reb, wrote Dark Alliance. Everyone in
Yeah.
LA freaked out. His newspaper's in San Francisco or something, which was like the secondary city to LA in this Contra affair of the CIA running drugs. But I really hope it's Alan Dulles. Whoever this dude is, I'm pretty sure it's Alan Dulles. Worked for the government, goes to like a city council meeting for LA, like a open event, and is addressing the rumor of the CIA running drugs. And like the community is taking the microphone and going, "You're a liar." And it's a bunch of citizens who have been affected by the crack pandemic in LA. And then Michael Rupert, that guy, worked for the LAPD in narcotics, like he said, and was approached by the CIA and says, you've been running crack for years. And they like the whole video, which we also have linked, is like 5 minutes long, but 3 minutes of it is the lady running the thing, trying to get everybody to shut up, but she can't because everyone was it kind of just shows the demeanor of the public during that time, which is like, incredibly emphatic about how terrible it was.
So, yeah, so grab that video, grab that video and play from 6 minutes and 30 seconds to 6 minutes and 52 seconds, some shit like that. Right?
The one we were just on, yeah.
Yeah, the one we were just on. Just play it.
Everyone from street protesters to talk radio hosts and eventually politicians looking to attack the Reagan and Bush administrations. California Congresswoman Maxine Waters became a particular champion of the piece.
As a public elected officials, all of us
It's Maxine Waters who's
must
still in
be
Congress, sorry.
concerned that our government could have anyway been involved in drug trafficking.
She said her main concern was
Yeah, right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
You want me to keep going?
Okay.
Reaction to the story
No, that was
was
it.
so intense that
I
the
didn't hear it.
Jeremy can spit it out.
What was that?
What
we
She was
just
just
played.
saying her main concern was, that the government has been running drugs in her city.
Yeah.
And that play a little bit more.
They've
Play a
been
little bit more.
involved in drug trafficking.
the reaction to the story was so intense that the CIA director
Okay, yeah. So it was so intense that the CIA director has to come out and like sit
Yeah,
in
yeah.
front of not the entire, but like of the citizens, right?
Yeah, keep playing
took
it.
the unprecedented step of
And it was
defending the
Alan Dulles,
agency at a heated LA community meeting.
Yeah.
It is an charge that goes to the heart of this country.
And he basically says, if you know of any ill doings, like please come forward and present this information. And he's like, I did that like 20 years ago or some shit like that, like in the 80s or something. And he's like, I'm sorry. Let me reiterate. So this guy gets up. What was the guy's name? Gary Rupert.
Michael Rupert.
Michael
He
Rupert.
actually. Okay.
He gets up.
You could do a whole episode on Michael Rupert. He got
gets up.
into.
And he's like, I got all of this evidence. CIA is running drugs in the country. Blah, 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 blah. Hard evidence. This has happened. I tried to share it with y'all guys before, but nothing happened of it. Here, I'm sitting in front of this council sharing this information with you guys. And the CIA director is like, I don't know of any ill doings. If you've got tangible evidence, bring it to us. We'll definitely address it. I would recommend 3 locations because immediately everybody in the audience is laughing it off. And everybody's like, that's a joke, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, first place I would take it is the LAPD, and immediately the entire crowd like laughs him out of the room or something like that.
Yeah,
and
and
he's
that
like,
guy
2,
presented himself as former LAPD, and it's like, okay, well.
yeah, and he's like 2, me, and everybody laughs at that, and 3, like your city councilor or senator or something like that. Everybody laughs him out of the room, and then the Rupert guy is like, I tried that in the 80s. I walked into the LAPD and gave them all this evidence, and I literally got chased out of the building with gunfire on me, and like I've been like shot at by the LAPD trying to turn in this evidence. So here he is trying to address it in front of the city council, in front of all in
I will
public,
get to the bottom
broadcasted
of
to
it,
the city,
and I will let you
in
know
front
the
of
results
everybody.
of what I found.
Yeah. Okay. And he mentions 3 CIA programs:
Mm-hmm.
Amadeus, Pegasus, and
High tower, watchtower,
yes, Watchtower.
watchtower.
And so I kind of dug into those. They're weird. We're gonna have to make our way back to Nixon. Let's get through this.
Dude,
Some of this 80s stuff. I'm sure we'll make it back to the 80s. It's all just gonna jump back and forth. It's
Yeah, but
all,
listen
the
to
same
this.
people doing the same shit. Hang on, let me. Oh wait, is it in the video?
Yeah, it's right in the video. It's like 10 more seconds, and then it's over.
Okay.
oh shit.
Okay,
I'm
go
flipping
ahead.
around. My bad. What part were you wanting to hear?
We're right where it was.
The reaction to the story was so intense that the CIA director took the unprecedented step
That's
of
what I was
defending the
just,
agency.
Yeah,
at a
keep playing it.
heated
No,
LA
keep playing it.
community
Keep playing it.
I'm people.
Oh.
It is an appalling
Yeah, right here.
charge that goes to the
John
heart
Deutsch.
of this
It's not
country.
Alan Dulles.
I will get to the bottom of it,
Listen
and
to
I will
this.
let you know the results of what I found.
How are we supposed to trust the CIA official to investigate themselves?
What was
There you
equally
go.
shocking, though, was the reaction
So,
of America's mainstream
Basically,
media.
this the
Webb
head
and the
director
San Jose
Clinton
Mercury News
of the CIA.
often
He was saying that, we're looking into, these rumors about us delivering drugs into the fucking country, blah blah blah. And the lady said, she goes, "How can we trust a CIA official that's investigating themselves?" And you're like, "Yeah, you're absolutely right. How do you investigate yourself? Like, oh yeah, I'm on it."
Yeah,
That makes no fucking sense. It's so stupid.
kind of asinine on its face. Okay, so that Michael Rupert guy brought up 3 CIA scenarios: Watchtower, Pegasus, Amadeus. Pegasus has been used a lot. Operation Pegasus is kind of not original. So everything I found was not related to the CIA. It was just some government operation that didn't really mean anything.
Well, can you give brief examples real quick?
I don't even remember what they were. They were not what I was looking for, so I just moved on.
Okay.
As far as
I got
Operation
another theory
Pegasus.
on it. I got another theory on it, but whatever.
Okay, Operation Watchtower. I put a video in there. We don't have to watch it. It's a Rumble video. Maybe we can just, if you want to throw it in chat for a link, people can watch it later.
I meant to do that.
Essentially, it was a program, and this is, as far as I know, real and out there. It was a program that the CIA was flying. It was a way for the CIA to get cocaine out of Colombia.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they had set up a like a series of low flying under the radar routes for planes to kind of get it out without the government knowing, all the way up to Panama. And when it got to Panama, they had paid off Noriega, who was head of something in Panama at the time. But his name comes up more later. He kind of becomes a huge drug kingpin of the time. But Amadeus is a lot more weird. And it goes back a lot further. So in the 40s, and I posted an article of this guy. I hope I wrote this down. Damn, I didn't. There's a picture of a guy. It's in black and white. It's in the Discord. If you could click that, just so I can have his name. Klaus something.
Klaus Barbie. That should be easy enough to remember.
Yeah, Klaus Barbie. Okay, so Klaus Barbie was a Nazi, and the end of the war, America got him out without being killed. He was called like the Butcher of Lyron or some French place. Did terrible things, but we snuck him out to Bolivia. And then in the 80s, he helped overthrow the Bolivian government and ran a secret CIA cocaine project in 83. It's not a... Is this his wiki? It's not on his wiki. It was on something else I found. But he kind of had his run in Bolivia. We worked through him in Bolivia, and later the U.S. had to apologize for sneaking
Hiring
him
this
out
guy?
and sneaking him out of France when he had an active warrant and like crazy stuff. And that kind of, you could dovetail that into all the Nazis being in South America. That's kind of an interesting show all by itself. Maybe on another episode we can circle back to Mr. Barbie. But so all of that just to kind of explain that through these times, the 80s specifically, it was not necessarily uncommon for the CIA to be in South America piloting drugs back and forth.
Not uncommon. Not uncommon.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I don't know how far do we want to stay in the 80s?
Yeah, the 80s is great because you got the crack epidemic, you have Reagan, you have all kinds of fucking topics.
If you follow the rabbit hole of Barry Seal, are you familiar with Barry Seal?
I don't think I've heard that name yet.
Maybe it's passed through a podcast I've listened to. I don't know.
He was a private pilot who ran drugs. He had his own small airfield in Arkansas. He got caught by the government and began running drugs for the government after he got caught. So he's undercover. And if you kind of look at what he said he knew at least 10 other pilots who were doing the same thing. And by the time he was done, he had 10 under him. So if you extrapolate that, there's like 100. I mean, who knows?
Drug running pyramid scheme.
Yeah, and so like, I mean, if you're looking at the Contra thing, that's probably a set of pilots. Then we're talking about Bolivia with this Barbie guy. That's a set of pilots. Barry Seal is not related to them at all. He's who's the guy that was in Colombia at the time? Hugely famous. I think they did that Netflix show on him.
Recently, like in the past maybe 15, 20 years? El Capo?
No, not El Chapo.
Chapo?
No, he was in the 80s. I don't remember his name. He's the most famous one.
Dude, that's like 30 years now.
That's like 50 years. Yeah. 40, sorry.
40. Meet me in the middle. No, yeah, it's crazy shit.
Talking about.
So if you extrapolate this all into like all these different stories from just the 80s, there's just like obviously there's enough cocaine coming through the CIA to spawn the crack epidemic. I mean, we haven't even talked about Freeway Ricky Ross.
Dude, so there's so much tier to it. So there's the crack in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the same epidemic we were facing like 5 years ago that was in the news, right? With fentanyl and all those heavy... Like, that's all the same drug, right?
Fentanyl is not crack.
I'm sorry,
though.
heroin and fentanyl are the same.
They're both...
They're not.
Actually,
derivative.
fentanyl is synthetic.
Synthetic
It's
poppy.
synthetic. But they're both derivative of opioids, yeah.
So, in investigating this war on drugs and
Did
stuff...
I say that? Pablo Escobar.
Pablo Escobar, yeah, that was the name. So, you made me lose my train of thought. Dang it. Why did you do that?
Sorry.
What was I saying before you cut me off? In researching some of this, what?
I forgot what you asked me.
There you go, man. So, Pablo Escobar. That's who you were trying to think of in Bolivia.
Dude, he made so much fucking money.
Dude, that was what it was. Thank you, Drake. Thank you. Thank you. So, in investigating a lot of this stuff, I got the concept that it's a giant laundry system. So you have all of this tax revenue that these politicians or any other corrupt people that you would have in place of doing this stuff, you have them getting all this American tax money that they can't necessarily allocate to what they want to personally, selfishly, right? So they go and wash it in this drug market, right? In the form of running these securities and stuff like that out in the Middle East and stuff like that. Because there's stuff that popped up in the news that I was trying to investigate, stuff just related to the war of drugs that there was like American military or American CIA operatives like protecting poppy fields in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all those areas because it was what they were invested in, right? Like that was where the money was at.
Okay, this is going to get us back into 1970. But,
yes. So yeah, I'm just saying.
On top of that,
in Discovery, I'm
going to kind of piggyback off that and then bring us back to the 70s. There's like all of these kind of lead back, especially Iran-Contra. So the Iran part of Iran-Contra is Iran had some of our hostages, and we, under Reagan claims he didn't know, and there's really no evidence to prove that he did. Let's assume he did. This is a conspiracy podcast. No one's innocent, especially the U.S. president. But so we sold weapons to Iran to get hostages released. It didn't necessarily go out that way. We traded. I think there were like 5 or 6 total. We only got 3 back. 2 were found dead, and 1 was never found, or something like that.
Yeah.
But we used the money that they paid us to buy those weapons to fund the Contras in Nicaragua, who are waging a secret war against the Nicaraguan government as rebels. The CIA is tied very closely with this Nicaraguan rebel group called the Contras.
Mm-hmm.
We're not making it back to the 70s. Let me just continue on this train. Got a whole paragraph on it. So we're using the Iran money to pay these people, and that Iran money runs out. So then we just start letting them run drugs. And by letting them run drugs, I mean it's kind of they're holding the CIA's hand, skipping across borders, taking cocaine to LA. And this all kind of comes out. This is going to tie back into the Gary Webb guy here in a second, but Rick Ross his nickname is Freeway Rick Ross, but his nickname in the street is the like crack Walmart or something. Because he has
Rick Ross.
Yeah, Freeway Ricky Ross. He has houses that people just walk up to the window, put money in the window, and get crack. Like that's what the house is. It's just a crack house.
Yeah,
it's kind of the first time it's happened. He's said that he, on a normal day, his goal was to make $300,000 a day, but on some days he can make up to $3 million.
He said that was the most he ever made in one day was $3 million.
Yeah. And so if you kind of dig into his court case when he got arrested and stuff, his hookup was a guy named, these are Hispanic, there's Nicaraguan Hispanic names, I'm going to mess them up. I think it's Blandón and Meneses. They are the leaders of Contra, of the Contra group in Nicaragua. They are running that secret war against the Nicaraguan government with the CIA holding their hand. Mm-hmm. When he goes to court, the CIA sends, they were trying to subpoena and find Blandón. And no, he set up Rick Ross when he finally got arrested for the for the DEA. It's a fake bust. Blandón told him to go there. He's obviously working with the government. It might not have been the DEA. Anyways, the defense and the prosecution want to subpoena Blandón, and the CIA sends a note to the court that says, no, because if he is a CIA asset, it's a matter of national security, and if he's not, it doesn't matter. So no. And it's like, dude, this is like, hang on. Can you confirm either way? Which one's true? This is kind of a weird thing that you just said to a open court case, like one of the biggest ones ever. Why does it say ley lines in the back?
Dude, I don't know. It was the same thing last week. Maybe I duplicated scenes, so I think I just missed it on the other one.
Anyway,
dude, I think that it was a pretty common occurrence. Sorry.
Yeah, this is all what Gary Webb wrote about. Here, let me read through what I was reading, or what I was going through. Oh, Blandón and Meneses have been seen in photos with CIA agents. I tried to find one, but I couldn't. It's kind of a hard name to Google. And there's important stuff about this guy. No, that goes back to the 70s. So that's all I had on that. But like, this is just another one of the stories in the 80s. Because there was a guy running parallel to Freeway Rick Ross. It was like Boston something, like Boston Trevor or something stupid.
Yeah.
But both of their stories are like, yeah, I was getting ample amounts of cocaine pretty easily.
So the way
$300,000 a day's worth.
The way I was understanding it, so the CIA has like motivation to finance like certain governments around the world to achieve certain agenda, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is just a broad synopsis. And they create that revenue for those shadow wars by selling drugs to the American population.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to round back into that, but yes, exactly. I think
so
it's an impossible thing to prove, but it's also impossible to prove where the CIA gets their money, so it's just
Dude,
real
it's
as
easy. They would
anything else.
have easy access to illegal drugs. So they probably have stockpiles of confiscated paraphernalia, drugs, just probably warehouses full of this shit. And they could just take it any time and take this and move it to some other country, sell it, and make a profit on it, and then take that money and go funnel it into some other government to achieve some other agenda, right? And it's operating under the CIA umbrella, so the American government gets to be like, oh, you know, that's just like an entity. I was thinking about this today, actually. Joel's...
Yeah, and the absolute goal of the CIA is to not get caught or to not be...
Well, it's just something it's like an scapegoat for the American government, that if they do end up getting caught, they're just like, oh, that was some random rogue agent doing some shit that, you know, wasn't sanctioned or something.
Or
It's
they
just like
deny it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that didn't really happen. If it did happen, it was some individuals doing stuff on their own agenda or something like that. Right?
Right.
But this is what I was thinking about earlier. So Joel also was watching stuff on Oliver Stone, like got to go to Russia and interview Putin in all these interviews. It's like stuff you could rent or watch on Amazon, right? And it's like super recent. It's like 2018, 2016 stuff. Damn it. I keep losing my train of thought.
Putin.
Oliver Stone.
Putin. I forgot where I was going with Putin, but it's there.
Something about the CIA.
He was talking about operations like that and how it was perceived, like from the Russian government and stuff like that. And he was talking about propaganda against like Putin's like KGB and stuff like that. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
There's, whenever you think of Russian and stuff like that, you're like KGB, obviously it's bad. Like they're like this secret police or something that has this negative connotation to it. For whatever reason, we've associated as Americans as negative. Hashtag too high. That would be the perception of other countries' versions of our CIA stuff, right? So whenever other countries, European countries or other like South American countries hear of CIA operations in America, I imagine to them it's the same connotation as us with like the KGB or the SS or stuff like that.
There's an interesting factoid I learned about Putin. At the time,
I think that was pretty.
At the time he was elected president of Russia, he had a 2% like approval rating in polls, and I want to say, who was the guy that was right before Putin? It's like Boris Yeltsin or something.
I'm not sure.
Anyway,
before him. Yeah.
Whoever was right before
I can
him.
look it up. I'll look it up.
Yeah, I tried to, and it goes back to. Anyway, that same guy also had 2% approval rating. That's why it was being run out in the Russian government and said Putin's going to win, and everyone's like, "You're fucking nuts!" And then Putin wins with 2%.
Why does that sound so familiar?
Popularity rating. Medvedev.
It was Dmitry Oh, you already said it.
Yeah, Dmitry Medvedev.
Yeah.
So both of them were kind of like irrelevant or like actually disliked and ended up becoming president of Russia. But I guess that's another story.
Yeah.
Dude, the fentanyl, we mentioned that a minute ago. That shit is awful right now. They're mixing that in anything, and that's what's so bad is like all these people that are just addicted to like heroin or crack or something. They're just trying to, get their day going, and then they might smoke fentanyl, and it might be, their last time, and they die and they overdose, and
well, and this is all kind of result of like the opium or the painkiller pandemic. What is
That's what
this
I
called?
was. That
but this is why drugs should probably be legal, because then you wouldn't have all these dirty drugs,
Opiate
coming-
crisis. Sorry.
opiate crisis in all these states, and you'd be able to. It would just be so much cleaner.
Yeah, and let me.
I want clean
let me.
heroin. I don't want to have to worry about.
But you'd be getting clean needles.
Go ahead.
Let me
Clay.
dive into why though.
So yeah, go ahead. That's what I wanted to get into.
I watched a frontline documentary on
Frontline.
one specific company, and I don't know that I linked it, but I don't think this is necessarily abnormal. So this billionaire guy, John Kapoor, invests in a company called Subsys for a drug called Insys. Nope. Reverse those. It's a company called Insys. The drug is called Subsys. It is fentanyl, but it's like a breathable nasal spray version.
Oh shit!
And it's approved. I think it's approved. It's meant for late stage cancer patients. It's for people who kind of can't be conscious because they're in so much pain and dying such a terrible death. It's like one of the worst drugs you can imagine needing to be around. But it works really good, and it's fentanyl, and it's easy to kind of give to a dying person. And it's like stronger but more digestible. What's up?
Oh, nothing. I was none. So Honey in the chat said, "Tell me why the first pain med they gave me was my last hospital stay was fentanyl."
Because cheap.
Well, fentanyl is it's used in hospitals, so
yeah.
It's used in hospitals, but at correct dosages compared to out on the street. People are just like putting who knows how much into how much heroin, and
well, they're also lacing drugs that aren't supposed to have fentanyl in it at all, like ecstasy and
you can't do anything these days.
You might get it with an Adderall, but anyway, so it was this nasal spray, and it goes into this company, and the kind of corruption within, in that they just started paying doctors, bribing doctors to off-label subscribe it, just to make more money off of it and he was trying to make his investment back or something. But it got so deep into it that they kind of had their business model turned into what they called titration, Titration, titration. And it wasn't let's sell this drug to more people. It was let's get the people who already take this drug to take higher dosages and need more of it. And it's kind of like, I mean, that's almost like worse than a drug dealer.
Yeah,
Drug dealers that don't care.
I was trying to show a graph. I think it's later in
That's
the video.
big pharma.
There's a video. I guess it's later in this. No, that one's a better
Overdose.
one.
Hey, we wrote a song called Overdose, Abel Delilah. It isn't out yet, but hopefully we'll be soon.
Shameless plug, yeah. So there's a
I
graph.
don't have a list. I think it's my headphones are making it sound like I have a list, but I'm sorry.
It's the beer that's making you sound like you have a list. So there's a graph like this later in the video. I'll find it in just a second, but to visualize my point.
Called you out.
There's this chart that's showing drug overdose, and it's related to the fentanyl epidemic that we were talking about, right? 2014. There's a graph of this that shows direct like prescription recommendations or whatever prescriptions prescribed, and it's the exact shape and correlation on it. It was a crazy point to show that, I don't know, we're creating it in a sense.
I think in a clinical sense, people are using fentanyl because it's less medicine you have to take. It's easier to transport, and it's
very strong,
stronger. But on top of that, I watched another video. I watch mostly videos because I'm trying to do it while I'm doing something else. But it was a story of it was a drug dealer kind of confessing everything, and he was talking about when he used to sell cocaine or heroin. He was the guy who would go to South America, grab it, and come back. Is this video playing? Do I need to shut up?
No. I got to mute. I was waiting for.
Okay. And he was like, I would have to grab like 300 pounds of a drug to bring back, and it's kind of hard to secretly do that. But I could fit $300,000 worth of fentanyl in a shoebox, or like $1 million, like just some crazy amount. Like a shoebox full of fentanyl is $1 billion, whereas a shoebox full of cocaine is like $100,000.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's becoming so prevalent amongst drugs, is because it's way easier, smaller amounts. Its efficaciousness is what makes it so prevalent, because the transporting of drugs is what's hard, because it's illegal to transport them.
Dude, yeah, don't talk to me about legal transportation of drugs. It's right here.
Oh, I can't hear it.
Yeah, I have it on mute. I was reading the subtitles, waiting for something specific, but I didn't want to catch you guys. I think that's that's right there. Opioid deaths versus opioid sales, or something like that. It's just a quick answer, right? You go to the doctor, like if you got a kidney stone, you show up the doctor and end up on fentanyl, or whatever. You show up with a muscle ache, it's fentanyl.
Yeah, absolutely. Potency is a better word than efficaciousness. You're correct, Tony. I'm sorry, especially with the efficaciousness.
Yeah, I don't know. So to me, I don't know. Go ahead.
The opioid crisis is kind of very similar to the fentanyl crisis that I just talked about, in that, like,
they're the same. They're the same to me. I don't know.
The corruption of corporations, especially in the sense of selling drugs legally, is seemingly just as dangerous as now I'm hearing a list. Maybe I do have a fucking list. I don't know. But it just seems as dangerous as like drug dealers.
Yeah.
But I think a drug dealer has more of a conscience than a corporation does, even an evil one. I think if you show up pregnant to a drug dealer, they go, "Please leave my house."
Yeah.
But you show up to a doctor pregnant, and they go, "Only take this much," when you probably shouldn't take any.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I mean, maybe they hand you stuff that's good for pregnant women, but
you're talking about a drug dealer morally choosing what cocktail drugs he's going to give one of his clients. Mom is taking morphine twice a day. She has been able to stay awake since.
She was taking both. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, it's kind of hard to shit on.
I think there's a distinction to make that
like dependent on it.
There is utility to some of this stuff, and it is definitely serves a purpose. And some of it is being used correctly, but I'm saying there is an epidemic and there is a problem, and it's obviously been addressed. I mean, like, obviously what we've been talking about, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to compare the morality between a doctor and a drug dealer, which honestly is not a very good argument. But at the end of the day, there's crises of drugs and those who prescribe them.
I don't think. I mean,
there's a big difference between them, both of them, because like one can be really chill and relaxing, and then one can be really scary. Like if you go to buy weed from just a dude down the street, he might just eat pizza with you. You might like smoke with him. Then you go to the doctor, and he might like do all these tests on you and take your blood. So which one's scary?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the person, depends on the doctor, all depends on the weed dealer too. But in the beginning of the opioid crisis, opiates were described as when they were first released, they didn't have the stigma they do now. They weren't supposed to be addictive, and they were supposed to be like a wonder drug. That's why they were prescribed so much, and that's why they had to implement a national registry, or at least statewide registries, on your prescriptions with different doctors. Like they used to not have a computer system that said, no, he already got hydrocodone. He got 30 pills yesterday at a different doctor's office. So people were going from doctor to doctor to doctor to get more pills. And then people started taking advantage of that, not needing them, but just walking in and go, yeah, I have terrible back pain from doctor to doctor, and selling them all. People who had already been to the doctor too much.
I agree that
Just
there
'cause
should be some kind of
they're so-
registry. That
No, there
stuff
is,
should
and
be tracked. I agree with
it
that
was
part.
like-
Yeah. I agree that was some progress made on that.
And
But
while we're talking about opiates, I want to circle back to the 70s because Nixon is insane. The story of Nixon gets so weird and back asswards.
Let's hear it.
Well, I know you looked a lot at Nixon. Do you want to go first and I'll supplement you?
me?
Drake, because I have a whole conspiracy angle that I didn't think I was going to find, and I did.
Hell yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm
we
gonna
need
let you
the
go.
I'm
conspiracy.
always going to take the conspiracy, and I was trying to cut in to say that some of this, I don't want to change the subject to this, but this is my broader image of this is all like orchestrated and by design. Like I think the doctors, not necessarily like the individual doctors like in hospitals and stuff aren't in on it, but like at a pharmaceutical, at a like giant corporation, whoever's controlling, like the entities that control the entities, right? I think at that level, some of this is very much orchestrated. Sorry, go ahead.
And I'm going to tag that before we jump to Nixon, but we are about to jump to Nixon.
But
The
I think
tag
that's
is-
along the lines. If I think you're about to get in with Nixon, but it was all like to prop up certain stuff, and that's what I wanted to get into too.
Yeah, or diminish others.
Yeah.
But you gave a cop out to doctors, and I'm going to amend the cop out in that I think most, if not all, doctors are not necessarily into the whole story. They don't know everything, but the opportunity they're provided as a doctor to receive money to prescribe drugs, and it's very easy for them to kind of compromise with that idea.
Oh no,
or
they're
just live with it,
incentivized to
because they're like-
prescribe certain stuff for sure.
Yeah, they definitely get those incentives, but the way they talk themselves into thinking it's not a morally bad thing is like, well, I was going to give this person a drug anyway. Why not this one?
Okay, so you're taking the route that they're all conscious of what they're doing and are choosing to make these morally questionable decisions?
Yes.
Every single one of
Yeah.
them. Blanketly statement. If you're a doctor,
no.
if you reach
No,
doctor
no.
status and you've educated that much, you should be consciously enough to know that this is an actual thing that's going on. That's what you're saying.
I don't subscribe to blanket statements, but I think that more doctors than not pick this opiate instead of this opiate because this kickback is better.
Okay, I would say there's a majority of assholes in the world. There are more people out in the world that are out for money and for their own sake. Sure.
Well, and you don't even have to necessarily attack their moral acuity in this scenario.
I thought that's
in
what you were
that
doing.
They are going.
My bad.
No. That's not what I'm doing.
Okay.
Because they're gonna subscribe you a pain pill, but they're gonna subscribe you to the pain pill that they benefit the most off subscribing you.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even necessarily know all the pain pills. They just go, this pain pill gives me X amount of money every time I subscribe it. Does that make sense?
I think there's people that do that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some people. It's not every doctor, obviously.
Okay. And I agree, honey. I agree with what you're
moralizing,
saying. I'm sorry.
I'm moralizing their decision in writing prescriptions.
Yeah. No, I mean, she's bringing up a good example. If it's the same person I'm thinking about, there was another example in a place that we're all familiar with that had a doctor that was known for like.
Yeah.
You would just go here and be like, hey, I've heard about this. Can I have this prescribed? And then you would get the prescription.
I know exactly the doctor she was talking about. That was the nicest doctor I ever had. I couldn't help but smile, and she never thought I was sick because she made me smile when I went there.
I believe that stuff is way more common than not, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, there's the doctors get taken advantage of, but there's also like one time I went to a doctor because I couldn't sleep and I was dealing with some mental problems. So I go to the doctor and I go, I can't sleep. And he goes, okay, here's some Ambien. And I go, okay, that was not. I'm a college-aged male. I think I'm here. I think I can't sleep because I'm depressed. There's some irregularities here. I don't know where to go, so I went to a doctor. It's October, and he goes, here's 6 months of samples. these are 20 milligrams. Take these until they run out, and then take 2 of these 10 milligrams until they run out, and I'll see you after Christmas. And I was like,
This wasn't
What the
opioids. This
fuck?
was like
no, it's SSRI. It's arguably worse. No,
So-
an Ambien and a depression pill.
I want to differentiate those two because I think the war on drugs that's not fair. So when I say like heroin and all that stuff, that's a different category for me for SSRIs. Like that's a different topic that I think we should address and talk about.
We're tiptoeing on another podcast where we talk
absolutely.
about big pharma. I totally agree with that. So let's go back to the 70s straight. Hit us with some Nixon talk. Give us some tricky dick.
Oh, Nixon. Nixon.
Hey, we are at the hour mark too, so that's worth noting.
All right, cool. Hour mark.
Yeah, this is my last beer. It's only half full, so I'm done when this is done.
Well, we'll just go until we're done talking about what we're talking about, I guess.
No, yeah.
Well,
There's no time limits here.
all right, cool. I don't know. So, I think when Nixon helped start the war on drugs, one of the major reasons was profits. And, obviously it's always about making money. Like Jeremy was just saying, somebody's always making money at the very top and making all the moves, just like everything that's going on today.
Here, we're going to do this together because I'm not going to be able to help jumping in. Because absolutely, it's profits. But in 71, he declares the war on drugs. His next election is 72. With his declaration of the war on drugs comes the declaration of who his enemies are. And I'm going to not exactly quote, but this was his ideas. The anti-war left, because we're in the midst of Southeast Asia wars.
Yeah,
notably Vietnam,
the hippie area. So
not
he
area. He calls out the hippies and African Americans. He doesn't say African Americans. He doesn't go as far as the N word, but he's obviously racist about it. He's not a good man. And so his declaration of the war on drugs is for profit, and it's also to get him reelected. And it worked handsomely. He won in a landslide. So
to add on to that, to get reelected, making money, get reelected, fucking fill prisons, because the prison industrial complex, blah, 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 that.
We're going to do a whole episode on that too, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm not really going to touch too much on it, but they had to fill the prisons with, so like the CIA came into all these neighborhoods, started showing Rick Ross, freeway Rick Ross, how to make the crack, all that crap. And then they started spreading it through low-income poverty areas that were filled with minorities. And they started arresting them, putting massive drug charges on all these people for like minor possessions of coke and crack or whatever it is, mainly crack. And
because minor possessions of coke are treated differently than minor possessions of crack. Crack is more on level with meth because they're so easy to transport and so easy to consume and sell, that if you find something like that, they hold the same weight because they're a more similar drug than, like, even though crack and cocaine are technically the same thing, it's easier to distribute crack than it is cocaine.
Yeah. So I have 2 fun facts, one right now and then one in a minute that I'm going to get into. But one thing, so I saw that
fun fact in the middle of a crack.
All right, say you're in your car, and they can see this water bottle. So say you're driving, not you, but a person is driving, they get pulled over, they have like a tiny bit of coke on them, and they're like, "Ah, shit, the cop pulled me over. What if he knows?" So you decide to fucking throw the coke into a cup with whatever liquid in it. And so the cop comes up, he knows that he saw you throw it in there, he knows you threw something in there. Boom, he basically figures out
super whacked out.
Yeah, you're fucked up. Yeah, so you're like fucked up and shit. And so they can charge you with the amount of what is in the cup, the liquid that's in the cup. So instead of just charging you for the little bit of crack that you had, like not even a gram maybe, they just charged you with 32 fucking ounces. of whatever. This is 16. But like,
Because
say
you
you have
mixed
a fucking Sonic cup, and you threw that in there. You mix it with that. That's 32 ounces of fucking soda. But he's giving you a fucking charge on it because you threw that Coke in there. And so
Interesting. No kidding.
So because so many people would just try to dispose it in their drinks that they have. And
I wouldn't call that a fun fact, but let's maybe call it a funny nut theorio fact.
It's a funny nut fact.
Yeah, funny nut fact. There we go.
Okay. So like with like last thing on prisons, like filling the prisons, they wanted them filled up 80 or more percent.
Let Ranch speak his piece. Don't censor our chat. I need to fix that. There's no censor.
It's
definitely censored. It's definitely censored. I'm sorry, but definitely allow Ranch. I got it. I caught it. My bad. We're good.
He said that's why you shove it up your butt.
Yeah, he's pulling a Stanley. Have you checked your butt? Huh? Shit.
I mean, then it works.
So,
Quicker.
what's one little crazy thing about fucking prisons I heard is that Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was the governor. He might still be. Is he still the governor of California?
He is definitely not still the governor, Drake.
Okay, I don't pay attention to fucking California's governor. So,
Gavin
15 years ago.
Also, he wasn't the governor. He was the governator. So
he was the governator. He's the governator for fuck ever. So sorry, Jeremy, that I don't pay attention.
Is there term limits on governors?
California politics?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the governor's name now. So.
Gavin Newsom.
I don't know if you're right. I'm
absolutely right.
Says the liberal in the chat.
He took weightlifting out of prisons because it was dangerous in California. Yeah,
you're saying Arnold Schwarzenegger did?
Yes.
Arnold Schwarzenegger took weightlifting.
Funny nut fact number 2.
Out of California prisons because it was too dangerous.
Yeah, because people are fucking killing each other with the weights.
I'm having trouble with that. I kind of agree with it.
Because he is a fake.
No, I think he probably understood the.
Dude, you get all that testosterone flying around?
I'm not saying you should enact that law, but I'm saying I can totally compromise his thought of it.
For sure.
In that he goes, hey man, definitely most prison guards are working out, but also definitely most prisoners are.
Here's this 300-pound security guard against like a guy that's like benching 400 every day. Is it possible to bench 400? That's way outlandish. My bad.
No, you can.
I think the world record's like 600 something.
Yeah, it's something like that. But that's what it was.
It's a Geo Metro, dude.
That's what it was. Is all these prisoners were getting super cut, and they would beat the shit out of the guards. So they were like, "Yeah, we have to not let them work out as much." And
all right, let's jump back to Nixon.
My bad.
In 70, he passes the Controlled Substances Act and repeals the Marijuana Tax Act, but leaves the hemp there. So hemp is still kind of like. I think it's actually a different act that makes it to where you can't actually produce hemp products, and that's in until it just got repealed in like 2015 or something, maybe 2010. But the Controlled Substances Act places drugs on a hierarchy. And it schedules them, and marijuana is scheduled as Schedule 1 next to LSD, ecstasy, heroin, things that are supposed to have no clinical use.
We need.
This is 1970.
I need to. Okay, what do I need to Google to pull that up? Because I want to. That's worth.
This is. It's called the Controlled Substances Act. This is a year before he declares war on drugs. This is a full year before that. 1971, he declares war on drugs. We went through imitating his enemies, trying to win a re-election, and just some fun fact into Nixon. This isn't a funny nut fact. This is a Nixon fact. All of this, his war on drugs, was in tandem with like Watergate scandals and his plumbers that were breaking into places and, making him one of the most corrupt presidents that's ever lived. All his dirty tactics. And we'll get here at the end of it, but at the end of when he resigned, he negotiated his resignation to get a pardon. and it pardoned him. The pardon was for everything he did in office, but they didn't realize some of the stuff he did when he got that pardon until like 2 years after. And that's what we're about to get into. So give me the floor for like 5 minutes because this shit gets really, really fucking crazy. He's in charge of the end of Vietnam and the Southeast Asia incursions and like Cambodia and stuff like that. Like, not a lot of people know this, but we were straight up. America was murking Cambodians.
Mm-hmm.
It's all disgusting. But at the time, before we got there, they had embraced marijuana. And by the time we left, marijuana was not socially acceptable, but heroin was. So much like the Desert Storm Wars, we replaced the occupation of America promoted the growing of poppies and the production of heroin to the degree that 20% of Vietnam vets that came back were addicted to heroin when they came back from Vietnam.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And if you dig a little deeper, the way they did this is let me read these notes while I say this because I had to write it all down. It gets kind of murky.
Do you want to share in the class?
Yeah. No, I don't have an article. I had to write it all down. It was a video.
Oh.
Okay. Santo Trafficante was a mobster who had a relationship with Nixon. Nixon's tied in with the mob pretty heavy. Santo Trafficante's dad ran the French Connection. If you don't know what the French Connection is, it was the first superhighway of getting opiates from Southeast Asia to France, and then from France to the rest of the world. Trafficante's dad paved that highway. He's very good friends with Nixon. And at the time of Vietnam and our Southeast Asia incursions, Nixon and Trafficante are friends, and Trafficante is running what they call service clubs, which I don't really know how to explain, but I think of it as like an urgent care or something like that. But he increased the prevalency of opiates and heroin specifically as a painkiller, and culturally through that as a recreational drug, and kind of ruins Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, which are encompassed in Southeast Asia, but I digress. They kind of ruin it culturally, and then heroin becomes super prevalent. That's why Vietnam vets coming back are also addicted to heroin.
Yeah.
And those countries simultaneously cracked down on marijuana while Nixon did in the States. Now, Santo Trafficante, the same guy who's fixing all the shit in Southeast Asia, he's a mobster here. He's implicated in the assassination of JFK to the extent that he said on the record that he ordered the hit on JFK. Because JFK and RFK were the only people in the Senate under Nixon going after the mob, because Nixon was trying to protect the mob. Nixon have at it.
You don't think you're saying it wasn't the mob that killed JFK? Because I was under the assumption that one of them. That's what I'm asking.
Trafficante's in the mob.
He killed. Yeah.
I got you.
And he is saying that I put that on Nixon or on JFK.
Yeah.
I did that same thing in the chat earlier.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off guard. I was just making sure.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So Santo had a partner named Carlos Marcello, who kind of ran the mob in Texas, Louisiana. They both together in tandem. It gets murky. It's not supposed to be a real fact, so who knows who did it, but it's kind of proven. that at 2 different times they gave him $1 million bribe, Nixon specifically, to either get Hoffa out of jail or keep him from going to jail, but to take him out of power within the mob. So they were trying to get Nixon to kind of do what they wanted to by giving him millions of dollars. And it's going to get crazier. To keep Hoffa out of prison when Nixon was vice president. Okay, so one of the bribes came when he was vice president. One came when he was actually president. And like we said, he was VP under Eisenhower. And late 50s, Trafficante was implicated. Okay, so the same guy, Santo Trafficante, was implicated in killing Sam Giancana and Jimmy Hoffa before they could testify about the CIA mafia ties. Before it was either Congress or Senate, but they were subpoenaed and had agreed to, and they were killed before they could get there. And then there was another guy who actually got to testify. I wrote his name down. Give me a second. Johnny Roselli. And these ties dealt with Operation Mongoose, which was a CIA operation to get the mob to help the CIA murder Fidel Castro in Cuba, so they could, kind of do whatever they're trying to do there. Nixon's, okay, this is a new idea, but it's still under the corruption of Nixon. His chief of staff, Alexander Haig, who was later Reagan's Secretary of State, so that brings back how these two presidencies are kind of tied together. He discovered that Nixon was getting a monthly briefcase full of money delivered from Southeast Asia from the people who are running these service clubs who are dealing out all the heroin in Southeast Asia. And the way he was able to do that is he used Army intelligence officers to follow the guy who was handing the briefcase off back and forth. 20% of returning. Okay, I wrote that down. And so that was kind of what Nixon got accidentally pardoned for, on top of
Nixon got pardoned?
Yeah, when he resigned. He resigned for a pardon for Watergate. But when they pardoned him for everything he did as president.
Yeah.
And didn't figure this stuff out until after they gave the pardon.
It's a lot worse than you guys know. But I'll take the pardon anyways.
To the extent to where during the trials where like Hoffa and Giancana got murdered, Nixon is playing golf with the guy most expected of murdering those people out in the open. And Nixon's friend Rebozo ran a mob bank. This is the end of this. I'm just trying to get through the extent of the corruption of Nixon, who instituted the drug war, so we can all think it's really, really fake. One of his best friends, last name was Rebozo, ran a mob bank in Florida that had ties to Swiss banks. And after his presidency, Nixon made annual trips to Switzerland, kind of like checking on his money. And he essentially laid the groundwork for the Iran-Contra stuff that we were talking about when we got to the 80s, in that he kind of developed the secret system for things to interact with, supposedly, to make drugs off money and keep it secret. But he was found out and pardoned. And, just cried and got in a helicopter and was rich for the rest of his life. This big ass nose.
And then they just went on continually doing the same shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
All of them. They're all fucking corrupt.
That's what we were trying to say earlier. I don't think it's tied to any one presidency or even generation.
No, I think the CIA and the mafia are tied so closely. Yeah. I mean, the mafia is dead now, but the CIA exists. But I think the CIA took a lot of from its inception, took a lot of like how to make money without people knowing you're making money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to produce whatever you want to, basically.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like the only, like, something people don't tell you is that the FBI and the CIA do not talk to each other. None of the agencies in the government that are supposed to be dealing with intelligence share intelligence with each other.
They're
So
operating as
this-
separate entities.
Yeah. And so essentially the CIA could do whatever it wants to and no one would know.
I
Yeah.
think they
And then
read
you
some
look
on
at-
that too, that the CIA is like autonomy to do stuff abroad, like outside of the states. They like have complete autonomy to just do whatever's. That's what it was. It was like a vague description of their purpose was like just anything that furthers the interest of the American population or something like that. That's
Of
like their
America
whole
abroad.
mission statement. So they literally, you could take that and twist it, be like, well, we overthrew this world government over here just because we thought it was in the best interest of whatever it was. But like
We toppled
it's like a license to kill.
7 regimes so Russia couldn't build a pipeline.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, and then the FBI is supposed to just deal with interstate, what is the word?
That's why I have trouble
You-
believing that stuff is just, I don't think the
But they
CIA, I don't know. I feel like there's somebody above that, like requesting the CIA to do this stuff. And then it kind of funnels through this higher pyramid, but that's a bigger
The elites.
Yeah, and I'm kind of prone to believing that when you look at like George Bush Sr. was at one point head of the CIA. He's not the only president to have done that. He's definitely not the only person to be elected or assigned a high seat in our government to have deep ties to the CIA. It kind of obsesses itself within our government. If you know stuff, you get hired, especially if you're in the old boys club of the CIA.
I think they just get a turn every couple of cycles. They get somebody in office that is actually literally like somebody that's part of their team that gets to do that stuff. And George Bush Sr. is probably an example of that, right? Whereas somebody like, I mean, I don't want to confidently say Obama or something like that, but somebody else comes in and they're more of like a puppet or something with no real power or anything, right? When all this stuff is going on behind the scenes, regardless of whatever administration's in the office. I'm just saying, occasionally they get a George Bush and be like, "Hey, this guy's our guy. We could do whatever we want this time." And then,
or George Bush Jr. and they go, he'll listen to his dad and or Dick Cheney.
Dude,
Literally.
Do you ever wonder how? Okay, say there's not an incumbent, so like the end of George Bush's
after an 8 year
presidency, or even Obama, when you have to do the caucus for both parties. How do you get those first 6 people? Who picks that? The DNC and the RNC? Who runs the DNC and the RNC? Who's pulling the strings to even get those 6 people in front of us? You know?
I know we've got.
Doesn't that seem sketchy, at least?
I know we've got people on both sides. I know I've got friends on both sides, but I think the DNC is fucked for sure. I think that's been pretty evident. And the RNC, both sides are fucked. I will say that.
The only reason I think the RNC is less fucked is because Trump got through it and Bernie didn't get through the DNC.
See, that is the tiny sliver for me for the RNC. I'd lean more toward that just because there is, I don't know, for whatever reason, my optimism, there's just hope on that side. I don't think the GD, whatever it is, the grand old, whatever it is, party, what is it?
The GOP is the same as the RNC.
I don't think those two are the same. I think that is a different entity that has taken power in the past couple of years, operating under the Republican Party.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking like rhinos and populists, basically?
Well, there's just people further on the end of that spectrum that are operating closer to the middle. The best analogy I ever heard for... Most Americans are like in the middle, right? Like they're just slightly right, just slightly left, right? But you get these champions, these really outspoken people on either side of it that rise up and they're extremely vocal and successful, right? They're the champions of whatever party it is. They're just further on the end of the spectrum and they're louder, right? So the people that are in the middle gravitate even further, more extreme on whatever side they're already on because of these people that are so vocal, that are so far.
That are kind of, just trying to make sure you're on this side of the boat, not that one. I'll be real loud over here, and I'll say one thing you really like, so you come over here.
Exactly.
But I would also like to make an argument against the RNC and the point that I brought up that Trump got through it, which kind of makes it seem like...
You're going to argue with yourself? Let's hear it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Hell yeah.
So if Trump got through it without any help at all, and he just beat everyone else,
I don't think he got through it without any help at all.
Yeah, I'm about to get there.
Okay.
But he totally railroaded everyone he debated with, and people didn't think you were allowed to do that in
I
politics.
don't think he debated anybody. I'm sorry.
No, he didn't. He went, you've got a dog, why Ted Cruz? And he won because people went,
You're going to fall
yeah,
asleep, Biden.
Cruz. Yeah, exactly. Shit like that. But also, on the other side, in the DNC, Hillary is running. If you looked at her WikiLeaks, they ran something called the Pied Piper. They called Trump their Pied Piper.
Yeah, we were. You were touching base on that on the Sunday show. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a little bit. So with her media influence that she obviously had, she was getting questions to debates and shit like that. I mean, it's Hillary Clinton. She's embedded. She was using that influence to make them push Trump because she thought she could beat him the most. So let's call the RNC at least incompetent based on that. Not necessarily open and free and available to...
Was that not you? Were y'all not talking about that Sunday?
Was it? I think probably.
Did y'all touch Hillary Clinton at all on Sunday? I'm getting my videos mixed up. There was something I was watching or listening to that would, like, they created Trump just because they thought he was the easiest guy to beat, kind of thing.
I've repeated that ad nauseum since WikiLeaks came out, so yeah. I can't tell you when I said it last.
Maybe I was watching an old video or something. I guess.
Maybe. Hey, I gotta pee real quick, y'all.
Yeah.
We take.
We can take 5. Yeah, I'll take a bathroom break.
I'm coming now.
I'll throw up the waiting screen. We'll be right back.
All right, cool.
clicked off.
I don't remember where we left off.
We were talking about Jeffrey Epstein.
Dude,
That's a huge topic.
I
And we
appreciate
were
you
not
doing that
talking
though.
about that.
Isn't it crazy that shit like that happens? Do you know what the Panama Papers are?
Yeah, absolutely.
That stuff blows my mind that stuff pops up. It was in mainstream media. It's in the news. You hear about this shit, and then
No, the most important shit disappears in 2 days, or it gets posted. No one even knows it happened.
there's small channels that I'm part of that it's like I think I see it maybe weekly where it's
The Panama Canal is a pretty big channel.
It's just ask yourself, why is not every politician not talking about this? Why is every news outlet not talking about this? Like, why is this not mainstream media right now?
Right.
Instead, you hear about bullshit. I'm sorry. That's my rant.
Yeah. No, it's actually kind of surprising that the country was captivated by something like Jeffrey Epstein when you look at stuff like the Panama Papers and even WikiLeaks to an extent, where mainstream media is telling you it's illegal to download it
It blows my mind,
and just
dude.
listen to us.
Snowden, that whole thing, like, it blows my mind that stuff could just get washed away, and then everybody's like, oh yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Well, yeah, and for all the shade you can throw at Joe Rogan,
I'm a hypocrite.
like,
I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to act like I'm not going to protest this stuff. I'm not trying
I'm
to
not
throw shade on
posting articles,
anybody.
yeah.
It just blows my mind, like
But-
that we're capable of doing that.
I do want to throw some kudos to Joe Rogan because for all the shade you can throw at him for,
Yeah.
just whatever his show is, and just he says whatever he wants to. He's had Snowden on, and he does kind of.
I think he gets a bad rep.
I think he gets a bad rep, but I also think he's like only to a small extent afraid to kind of shoot his shot on stuff like that. Like I'm sure you could pull up a Joe Rogan Panama Papers clip. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, like he definitely has a voice that he doesn't necessarily exercise.
But he might be talking to Joey Diaz, and they talk about balls, and then he goes, "Do you hear about the Panama Papers?" And then they talk about dicks. But
Yeah.
he
Full-
talked about it.
that episode.
Yeah.
But even then, I
Yeah.
mean, he's not like out like being an
No, it's
activist or doing something.
Right.
Yeah, totally. So, anyways, circling back.
But then the opposite, you get to Alex Jones, where all you do is scream.
Quit
Also,
bringing Alex
let's talk about
Jones
that for a second. No, we have to because he's in the news this week.
We do.
We talked about it a little bit on Sunday, so we don't have to go in depth. But $1 billion.
No, I'm cool with rehashing it. I think if it's worth discussing it, we should discuss it.
Well, and I know we talked about it last week on here
Did
too,
we?
but it came out.
Yeah,
that
Alex
he-
Jones, yeah.
Alex Jones came up last week about aliens.
Yeah.
Absolutely, he's gonna come up every week, dude.
He
have to
has
just try
some
and avoid
take
him.
on aliens that I don't know
However-
about.
Hey man, let's stop talking about why we talked about him and talk about why he's in the news this week. He
Fair
lost
enough.
his court cases and owes $950 million.
I heard about
Million.
that.
How many are a billion?
I agree with your
Billion.
take
Billion.
that seems crazy for one individual to be fined that much when there's corporations that are fined fractions of that. I don't. Yeah, the difference between a billion and
For
$1 million
actually
dollars.
killing.
It's another thing that blows my mind. You nailed it on the head, and I could see where Adam was coming from his argument, but it's crazy. It blows my
Okay,
mind
yeah.
that any one
And so-
individual is fined that amount of money when there's corporations. You made the argument. I'm sorry.
We're talking about the Rolling Third. Go watch that episode. It came out last Sunday. YouTube.com/Rolling Third. Anyways, I like to bounce stuff off of Adam, and I mean this in the most sincere way and in a very positive light. He hates politics, and he very we always have our slanted view. Obviously, we're running this show. We look at stuff and we don't believe it. But Adam kind of has, in the greatest light possible, a normie take.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So if I bring up stuff like that with him and I get his take, he's kind of my barometer for where everyone around me is. Keeps me from going crazy.
No, I
Good way to
totally
look at it.
agree. I'm not trying to. Adam made valid points too. I get the
No,
point of not
absolutely, yeah.
talking about it, even at all, like not giving him any kind of time or attention. I get that 100%. You brought him up, just FYI. No, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You brought him up for a
Oh,
reason,
yeah.
and it was to say he was in the news this week again for
Yeah.
being fined
Yeah, because
large amount of
he
money.
has 3 court cases. He lost the first one. I think it was like a $60 million something that actually seemed reasonable, but it was one person, so it's still kind of inflated. And he's been defaulted in all these court cases. So be that as it is, I don't know who to believe, him for saying he gave him everything or them for saying he's a fucking liar. We'll leave it there. I don't honestly don't even give a shit. I think he defame people. Cool. He owes them money, but $1 billion is not real. It's just not real.
Well, yeah, and that's why it's laughable, right? And like they wouldn't even approach that amount for a corporation when that's the problem, right? Yeah. I get all
No,
that.
corporations have literally killed tens of thousands of people.
And they're the ones
like,
that would potentially have that kind of money, like that's in that ballpark at least. That there would be an entity that would have that much money. It seems crazy. It just seems like what is happening there? I don't know.
I would like to know the figure. When y'all Google this, I'm on a phone.
Yeah.
I want to know how much money the U.S. government has been sued for and paid the highest one. What is the most the U.S. government has been sued for and lost and had to pay? I bet it's not even in that realm.
I think it's gonna be pretty vague. I think you would have to say like what department of the government has been sued the most. It's no different than someone getting 7 consecutive life sentences. I get that too. And I would agree. I'm not saying that Alex Jones has not been fined an appropriate amount. I would say that's different. I would say, yeah, fine him as much money as you can fathomably think of is an appropriate amount, right? And if that's the number, that's fine. I get that part of it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that number would never be approached to a corporation, which would actually have that money. That's what I don't get.
Yeah. Okay. Let's look at a corporation like CNN, and we're going to touch some topics that you don't have to agree with at all, but it is defamation. Okay. So that Nick Sandman kid who went to that rally and got a free Trump hat, and then the Native Americans, he just sat there and looked at him while they were beating on the drum. And then someone released the full context of the clip where he's actually just standing there awkwardly like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. There's a grown man beating a drum at me. And then all of mainstream media called him a Nazi, and he won his court case. It's undisclosed, but I imagine it's not $1 billion. And the entire country thought he was a racist, like an actual full-blown Trump-supporting racist, Kyle Rittenhouse is the same way. If you look at his case, I mean, you can say it was stupid for him to be there, and you're not wrong, but you can't say that he went around murdering people like the mainstream media said. And he's going to sue them, and we'll see how much he gets. I bet it's not $1 billion. And we're talking about legacy media companies who have, maybe they don't, but have in the past have had. They're worth more than InfoWars, I would imagine. But you won't get a case that way.
I don't think
So,
there's
okay.
a comparison
Okay, I have a
between those
question.
two. Yeah, Drake.
Okay, so I don't even know why I'm asking this because we shouldn't be talking about Alex Jones.
Don't use the word shouldn't. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, let's divert. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, then my question is not even worth asking.
Ask it.
No, ask it. You're fine.
What do you think is going to happen with Alex Jones? Do you think he's going to have to like give up InfoWars and fucking be able to pay almost $1 billion and give up everything he has?
No. He's going to appeal it. It's going to be probably tenfold less. And then we'll decide if he's bankrupt or not. If it's even a tenth of what he owes now, he will not. He'll have a YouTube Actually can't have a YouTube channel. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think he's just gonna have like a debt that he has to pay into every month, right? And it's X amount of whatever income he has.
I mean, it's definitely going to get appealed. He's not actually going to end up owing $1 billion, but I mean, he could go bankrupt. But you never know because
so many rich people do.
Even if he gets appealed.
And they still have houses. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
You know fucking how hard it is to buy a house, but you can be so rich that you go bankrupt and still have one.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Fuck those people. But I mean, you never know who could step in because like I mean, Kanye got debanked by Chase, who, by the way, banked Jeffrey Epstein to no end, even after he
talking
got
about
convicted
Chase
the
Bank?
first time. Yeah, so fuck them. I don't keep up with Kanye. I don't know what he did. He's probably being a dumbass
What do
in
you mean
some
you don't
way.
know what he
I think
did?
to get debanked. I know he wore a White Lives Matter shirt to something.
Yeah, he
and
did.
then he gave an interview that was anti-Semitic in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was like conspiratorially anti-Semitic, where he said they ran everything, which is inappropriate and not real. But it's fucking Kanye. No one takes him seriously anyways. They like his shoes, dude. Shut up, JP Morgan. Why are you dropping him? But anyway, he bought Parler.
I saw that. Yeah,
alternative-
I saw that pop up.
So he buys this alternative social media platform.
Mm-hmm.
Elon is trying to buy Twitter. And if Elon does buy Twitter, Alex Jones is coming back to Twitter. Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think Alex Jones's fate is up to where culture goes from here and where these giant tech companies allow him to go from here. Because it kind of seems like it's swinging back to normal, to where maybe they'll quit kicking people off if these two things can go well. But, you know, if they go horribly awry, it's either that they keep kicking people off or that they're so open that it's worse.
That's what's so fucking crazy about Twitter is that you kick off Alex Jones and you kick off fucking... They didn't kick off Trump for the longest time, which was funny. But, like, ISIS is on there. And, like, hardcore porn is on there. And
yeah, no, like Hezbollah and, like, the leaders of people who behead people on the internet are on Twitter.
Yeah, and you're going to kick off Alex Jones and Trump. It's fucking stupid, and all these other people. I'm not supporting Trump. I'm just saying, like,
no, I want to bounce off chat real quick.
It's fucking stupid.
Sprinkles says, "How did he not use the First Amendment?" First Amendment covers most things except for defamation, and he definitely defamed people, so he's not really covered by that. And then Ketchup says they put their homes under a shell company that's protected from personal liability.
Oh, okay.
And that kind of goes back to a very core thought I have, that when they made it to where you could sue corporations and they're not the people who run them, when they separated that, they ruined everything. That was the ruining of our system. Because now I can open a corporation and you could sue it bankrupt, and I have no repercussions other than I don't get to run that corporation anymore, regardless of what I've already sucked out of it. Does that make sense? He was referring to how rich people still have houses after they go bankrupt.
No, I know. I get that. I was just gonna say I have trouble. I feel like there should be some responsibility on the corporation's part too. I don't think they get it. They're not responsible for it. It's not some one individual.
Yeah, no, but I don't think it should be not legal for you to sue the people who work at the corporation. If it was their decision to make, and you can prove they made it under whatever pretense that makes it illegal, then they should be financially responsible for what they did. Okay, like, let's go back to what we were talking about, where Alex Jones pays $9 billion and companies have literally killed tens of thousands of people and not paid that much.
Yeah.
The guy who decided this drug kills this percentage of people, I'm going to lie, and we're going to release it. In a scenario like that, that guy should be sued $1 billion, because that guy made a decision that killed 40,000 people.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But that's not how it works. They sue the corporation. The corporation pays nearly not that much.
Yeah.
And gets to keep on going or declare bankruptcy and change their name and keep functioning.
It depends on what state your corporate is started in. That's what many people in Delaware. Oh, yeah. No, I've seen that. Yeah. Full anonymity in Delaware. I think there's benefits to Texas too, but I don't think it's the same thing.
No, it's not. People are starting Texas corporations because Texas passed a law that you can't be kicked off social media platforms for political speech. So people who are starting innately political things that have a
Rephrase that. So
Social
Texas
media.
passed a law that says you can't get kicked off social media platforms.
for political speech.
Okay.
So if you start a show much like this and we incorporate it and we say something politically untenable and we get kicked off, we can use the state of Texas to sue that social media corporation. No one's done it yet, to my knowledge, but they did set it up to where that's coming down the pipe. Someone's gonna, if they haven't already. Actually, Nick Rekieta, who's a lawyer on YouTube, recently got kicked off, got reinstated, but he incorporated through Texas, so he was about to follow that trail to see if it was for political speech or not, to suss out what they're going to contend is political and what is not.
I feel like that's just like an insanity argument. You could just be like, it was political commentary, and then
Yeah, and that's what kind of makes it interesting. It's kind of like the same as what is the copyright one? The free use and copyright sense, in which, like, if you're transforming whatever you're republishing, then that's like why review channels on YouTube can exist, because you're critiquing or transforming or making your own of something. Then you can't be copywritten against it. It's kind of that same argument where it's like, this is really kind of feeling-based law. Like, do I feel like they transformed this piece of art? Well, then it's free use. Do I think they just paused and giggled every 15 seconds? It's not. You know?
To tie it back into, the war on drugs, what this episode's supposed to be about.
Yeah.
I was trying to find an argument for why drugs should be illegal. Could anybody in chat make that argument? What's the tough argument keeping drugs illegal?
Well, I'm going to answer it to provide chat the lag to be able to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
I am, like, to the core liberal and libertarian.
Okay.
And so I don't think you can until you bring age into it.
I mean, you raised a good question too. Is maybe that's kind of what I'm getting at. Why is it a political issue to begin with?
That's a good question. Because some people think it's the government's job to tell you what you can and can't do.
See, I don't know. I think there are things that maybe that's true, right? I'm trying to ask for an argument why. I don't know.
Some should be illegal.
Something should be illegal. Drugs wise, specifically.
Well, an obvious answer is fentanyl.
Because of the potency of it.
So it's a dangerous chemical.
But dude, I'm so libertarian that I think if you want to take fentanyl at the risk of dying, or even for the purpose of dying, I don't care.
That's the thing I'm trying to get on. So, like, if somebody's making a choice to do that, to be hooked on fentanyl, don't you think that is a medical issue?
Yeah. No, I don't think it's a law. Yeah. They either have... well, I mean, you can be uninformed, and I think that's what people are trying to protect against. You could not know that you buying ecstasy could be fentanyl and that it could kill you.
Okay,
you
I'm not arguing
idea.
against education. Legalize
Okay.
euthanasia. Education is, I think, I used to blanketly say, hey, like, I think you should legalize everything. Everything should be legal. It should be up to the individual, blah, 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 blah. But definitely education, it should start there at a much younger age, and I think it has been. I'm not arguing against that piece of it.
No, I think that the way that we teach children about things like marijuana, I mean, we grew up in the DARE program to where marijuana was actually equated with the Schedule I drugs it's up against right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Yeah, actually, Biden didn't change it. He just let people out of jail federally, which is probably not that many people. Anyways.
Yeah, that's stupid.
But the second that wall is broken, and they're saying marijuana is just as bad as cocaine or something. And
That's what I was trying to pull up earlier, is the Schedule I drugs.
Oh my God, all these other drugs must not be that bad. You know?
Yeah, that was the piece I was trying to focus on earlier. What I was trying to Google is the list of Schedule 1 drugs, the list that we grew up associating drugs, the group of drugs together. So you had marijuana. You had that in the same category as LSD, which I would say is a totally different category, right?
Yeah,
No,
LSD is
not
fucking
necessarily
awesome.
totally
I've
different
never done
category.
it.
You don't understand what I'm saying, right? It's a different drug for sure. But then you had that in the same category as heroin and cocaine and all these other drugs. So you thought of heroin and weed as basically the same badness. I don't know. The same, I don't know. Strength,
Danger level.
danger level. Yeah. I don't know. Same potency, same, I don't know.
Yeah.
You put it in the same
No,
category
I get what you're saying.
that these other drugs are in, and there was nowhere. That's poor education. That's teaching kids the wrong lesson, right?
Yeah, like it's absolutely obvious that heroin, until fentanyl came out, was the worst drug you could ever do. It probably felt the best, but probably 1% of the people that do heroin do it once.
Yeah, like you try it once and you're instantly hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of the conspiracy.
Euphoria
though.
feeling,
Kinda like-
you can't beat it.
I kind of like Sprinkle's take, and I think it was the take of the Dutch or Amsterdam. Is Amsterdam the Dutch? Anyways, their policy, kind of, not really. Like, weed was technically illegal in Amsterdam, but you could still buy it in a coffee shop and smoke it with a coffee and no one would give a shit. But their ideology was organic drugs.
Yeah.
Like non-processed at all drugs are kosher. They're like,
So
we're not going to bug you about that. It's technically illegal to sell it, but we're not really going to bug you.
we'll get to the end of the show where we plug stuff, but I'm gonna plug it here now too. But there's a hashtag decrim nature. I think I mentioned it last time I was on your show. Hashtag decrim nature. It's like a movement that's going around where people are going to their city councils and stuff like that and saying, hey, this stuff that you could grow in your backyard, that like people are just like enthusiasts trying to like dial in strains or like do something like very personal, something specific, right? That stuff should be low radar, nowhere on like police's radar, breaking into the fences and like saying, hey, what the hell's going on, operation, stuff like that. So there's like movements going around where they're getting this. It's not making it legal, but they're saying decrim nature. So anything that people can grow in their backyard for their own personal use, they're not distributing, they're not out there selling it on the streets or something like that, that should be like no priority to the law enforcement. And
Yeah,
a lot of
ketchup,
city
totally
councils,
agree.
like I think Washington, D.C. is doing it. Decrim Nature is really a good organization. Yeah, D.C. is doing it. I think there's places in California that have done it. I don't think Dallas has done it. I know Dallas decrimmed marijuana or some
To an extent. Yeah.
But a lot of this is happening. I don't know, and I think it's worth talking about that people are signing off on it. It's worth mentioning that that movement is getting recognition.
Okay. So to my knowledge, the countries that it's legal to grow cocaine in, they don't necessarily process it there. They might, but it involves a chemical process and like and obviously a cocaine leaf is really what cocaine is from. But the people who grow cocaine will rip a leaf off and chew it like a piece of nicotine gum.
Yeah. I've seen that.
And it's not necessarily anywhere near the effects that cocaine would have on you because
It's like a cup of
concentrate it
coffee.
and process it. They in the process of making a powder, it's highly concentrated. So does decrim nature go as far as like you can grow a coca plant?
I think that's the idea. I don't know if it covers coca plants.
You just can't have a mortar and pestle right next to the coca plant.
No. No, I think you could. I think you could have whatever you wanted in your own home as long as you're not distributing or growing enough to like, I don't know. sell.
Oh.
Yeah. And that goes back to my statement earlier saying that you should be able to, like anything you could plant in the earth and grow, like that should be part of the Bill of Rights is like being a person, right?
Same reason a lot of people prefer hash made from solventless extraction process. Damn, we're getting into some science on them. I don't know.
That's the conspiracy to me, though, is that like anything that you could potentially grow as a person, like
I got my knowledge of how to make hash from the show Weeds, in which Nancy Botwin puts clippings in a dryer.
Yeah, I remember that show.
Industrial
That
drug.
show's pretty funny.
It was a good show. Man, I should have wear my. I have a Weeds shirt.
Oh, is it the Jesus Christ died for your sins or something like that?
Chris died for our sins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always wanted one of those shirts.
Right.
Oh, it's so awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, like, where does drug legalization come from here? I know there's some West Coast states that are trying to legalize things like shrooms, and obviously they've already done weed. They're even
I think
doing.
shrooms is actually legal. Is
Yeah.
legal in Oregon.
A few states, I
Washington.
think.
What's the horse trank that they're also doing?
Ketamine?
Ketamine?
Ketamine. Yeah, they're using that for like depression treatment and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's on that same vein as LSDs and stuff. We could, I mean, I know we're getting close to 2 hours, but that we could touch base on that on the whole SSRIs stuff.
Shrooms are illegal where I live. You can order it like pizza delivery.
That's pretty crazy.
Wow.
Fucking what?
I mean, we could touch base. I think we should dedicate a whole episode to that because I think that's trying to control general consciousness. Is that stuff? I don't know.
Like hallucinogens? What do you
No, like
explain? Expound upon your idea.
the whole like SSRI stuff. Like, I think I'm not trying to argue against people being on it or not being on it. Like, I feel like it does help people. Sure.
No, I get where you're going, and I'll say it.
I don't want to like.
Obviously, SSRIs help people, but they're overprescribed. These life-changing drugs, which SSRIs are, they change the chemistry of your brain, are being prescribed to people who have momentary depression bouts when something really bad happens to them. And so they're being used as like a short-term fix or as a long-term fix for a short-term problem, which is
like
a problem
because it masks the real issue. Not the real issue, but I mean, it definitely helps you, right? I'm not trying to argue against that. I'm just saying, like, it's not addressing the real issue.
Yeah, and I would analogize it as like
therapy is supposed to be for, right?
You fell and scraped your knee, and now you have to wear a knee brace the rest of your life. And the longer you wear it, the less strong your knee is because there's a brace on it. Like,
yeah.
At some point, you can't get off of them.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't know if you want to go that route with it. I was just saying my conspiracy take on it would be that they are using those drugs to control consciousness amongst the population. Where if you had access to shrooms and LSD and like these natural, LSD's not natural. No, I just meant these mind expanding drugs. Shrooms would be my example, but you could say any hallucinogenic drug, but that would make you enter that realm of whatever you want to call it that you go into on those drugs. I'm not talking about necessarily therapeutic purposes. I'm talking about like expanding your consciousness kind of thing. I think they don't want that, right?
I just want to comment on what Ketchup said. He said SSRIs have saved my wife's life for sure. Same.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, and that's what I was trying to be very clear about. I'm not
saying they're worthless and that they're for no one. I'm saying they're not for everyone. And
I think there's a very specific utilitarian purpose for those drugs, and I think they can be used to help people. I'm not sure.
Are you anti-capitalistic, Ketchup? Capitalism is pretty fucking awesome, man. Advertising sucks, though. I agree with that. Yeah, I don't know.
I think
maybe
capitalism
that
is
all
awesome,
comes in on the.
But I think
maybe that all comes in on
the.
There's definitely flaws, but maybe that conversation comes in on like a big pharma episode or something like that.
That's what I was saying. Like we could.
That one's a huge topic.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of chat, what do y'all want for next week?
Is it going to be SSRIs? Is capitalism? Is that a suggestion for an episode? I don't know how delayed that be.
No, I don't think. I think he's talking about earlier stuff.
It definitely could be better.
What do we have on our list?
I don't have a list.
I got a list. Let me see what I wrote.
Let's throw out some suggestions because someone's going to say flat Earth, and I'm going to say no, absolutely not. It's too
We
stupid
could do
to
flat
talk
Earth.
about.
It's just not a whole episode. I would say that's probably like 60 seconds.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I wrote a really good one down. We should do Epstein. We kind of broke into it earlier.
If we do Epstein, it needs to be all-encompassing, not necessarily just Epstein.
I got you.
Like a whole pizza episode or something. And that's going to get kind of spicy. We might want to paywall for that.
Do you like jalapeno on your pizza?
What about the moon landing?
Moon landing was fake.
Insta-take,
do you think the moon landing was fake?
We could do moon. We could do the moon
Clayton
landing.
says no. Drake.
Do I think it was fake?
Yeah.
In the first time, I think the first time was staged.
I think we staged it the first time, but then we actually went maybe a couple years later.
Yeah, I don't think we did that first time.
I think we went the first time, but in order to prove ourselves in the midst of the Cold War, we had to fake some shit to put on TV.
What would be an example of a stupid conspiracy?
That makes good.
Dude,
that makes
we
good
should do
sense.
an episode on the idea that conspiracy itself is like it's been orchestrated to have a negative connotation to it. Like anybody that
By
talks
the
about
CIA.
conspiracies is like, oh, they're immediately this like crazy person talking about conspiracy shit. That was designed too, right?
So we're gonna do an episode on like the history of conspiracy theories.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying to beat Russia.
Conspiracies that are stupid.
So that's that.
Which is flat Earth.
The history of conspiracies, I'm kind of interested in. I just think it's going to be really hard to research, so I don't want to do it next week.
No, I'm not suggesting next week. Yeah.
So let's. What else we got on that list, right? You have it written down, right?
Yeah. MK Ultra, moon landing.
MK Ultra would be a good one.
Yeah,
MK Ultra would be a good one.
That one be fucking
That's got
hot.
my vote right now.
Pyramids, JFK. 9/11.
I'm going deep into JFK right now, so we need to put that on the back burner too. Probably next November, on the anniversary. Not this November, but the one after. We'll hit JFK real hard.
A year from now?
A year?
I've got very secret plans.
Okay.
All right, cool. MK Ultra, it is.
Tune in a year from now.
I mean, that's some more CIA talk.
Yeah,
Why don't
I think we can expand on it.
Why don't we divert and go like ancient civilizations or pyramids specifically or something like that? Just kind of get off
All right,
government entities
pyramids.
for a week.
Pyramids.
That would give us a chance to circle back on aliens too, because I'm going to tie aliens back into pyramids for sure.
Yeah.
Pyramids.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. Then we'll get to hit some alien shit for
Dude,
episode
there's
3, 'cause one was
to
lost.
prelude to the pyramids. There's a whole like school of conspiracy that the it's
Ketchup
the Earth,
knows.
that civilization is a lot older than we're giving ourselves credit for.
Oh yeah, I just retweeted something on the Funny Net Theories Twitter. Go follow. That Graham Hancock is coming out with the 8-episode Netflix series that comes out in November.
About the pyramids?
Ancient civilizations in general.
Nice.
He's about the world being old and a catastrophe happening and civilization starting over. So yeah, it's that same vein of thought for sure.
That's my definition of the Illuminati, is that people that have retained information from
the people who didn't get wiped out.
So like if you think of civilization in like, I'm going to be generous and say like 25,000 year cycles, something catastrophic happens, an asteroid hits the Earth, wipes the majority of us out, 96%. I think there's a 1% that has maybe lasted maybe 1 million years or something.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense, and it would make sense that the 1% would kind of.
I think they've gone so far
3% would.
as controlling our idea of what our ancestors are, like how old they really are. I think there's been architecture that has been recycled throughout populations. I think there's like buildings that have withstand the millions of years. Not millions of years. That's ridiculous. I'm saying like generations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think millions of years is necessarily ridiculous.
broad strokes, I'm just saying, like, when I think of Illuminati, I'm thinking a lot bigger than...
All right, so let's line it out so I know what to study. Are we doing pyramids or are we doing ancient civilizations?
Ancient civilizations. If you
All
want
right,
to tie
this
in
is a
pyramids to
4-hour
that.
episode.
Yeah.
This is going to be a 4-hour episode.
I'm not opposed to it. I feel like I feel weird
Maybe
about
we'll
time
make it a
constraints. It should just go
two-parter
organically.
or something.
Yeah,
we can do
two-parter I'm cool
two-part.
with. I'm cool with that idea too.
I'm cool with that.
All right, we start episode 1 of Ancient Civilizations next week. You want to hit some plugs?
Yeah, we'll hit some plugs.
Some plugs.
I'll go first.
You have a degree in rhetoric?
I think that was a joke.
Oh, okay.
Oh, in
they
the
keep
chat.
that out. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, plug away, Drake. You're the one with the name wrong everywhere, so let's get all that straight.
All right,
yeah.
so
He doesn't have an
so-
accent, so...
It's a long story, but
It's partly my fault.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
Wow.
Yeah, you can
Congratulations,
follow
Ketchup.
me. You can follow me. I mean, everybody in this chat already follows me. It doesn't even matter.
Whoa,
But-
don't assume that. This might be posted on YouTube.
Oh, hopefully tomorrow. Yeah, I'll post it on YouTube. So if you want to follow me on Twitch, it'll show at the very end. It's Dark Lord Adar, Adar. And you can follow me on Twitter if you want. It's Inked Beats. I'm in a band, Abel Delilah. We just dropped a new single. It's called Flavor. That is on all streaming platforms. Wherever you get your music. Check out our other music as well. We're playing a Halloween show next week. Check our socials for all that info. Once again, it's Abel Delilah.
BA and BS. God damn. Ketchup's funny. Molasses, before you end this stream, put it on the YouTube video Flavor.
I'll put it on that before
That's
as our
it.
closing scene.
What's in on that video?
I'll put the link in the chat right now.
All right, I'm BOT Wasabi. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. I don't post on Instagram. And Reddit at BOT Wasabi. Also YouTube, but I don't post there either. But what I really want you to do is follow The Rolling Third at youtube.com. We do a live show every Sunday at 8 p.m. There you'll find a link to a Patreon that starts at 6:30 every Sunday, but that's paid. Yeah, that's it. And then come back here every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday at 7. I don't necessarily have anything to plug. I occasionally pop up on Twitch. You could find me at this thing right here. Pretty much on anything. But it would probably get redirected to Twitch. This is probably the only platform that I would be active on and respond to. So that's
cool. And follow Funny Nut Theories on everything. We got a Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Rumble. We are re-uploading these episodes on YouTube and Rumble, and you'll get some clips on everything else. And then if you follow the Twitter, we'll shoot you some cool articles, maybe some shit we saw while researching for the show during the week. So,
oh yeah,
that's the show. We'll see y'all next week.
all right, guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.